The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to the Star Sport podcast. My name is Dylan Mangan of the Southern Star and I'm joined as always by Star Sport editor Kerry McCarthy. Before we get into things, I'd just like to give our listeners a gentle reminder to please rate, review and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. And the Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose credit union, choose local, choose community. Now, Kieran, it's a huge week for Cork GAA across the board. And on this week's podcast, we're looking ahead to two big games with two big guests. First up, we'll be hearing from former Cork footballer Haulie O'Sullivan as he shares his thoughts on Cork's chances in the Senior Football Championship this year. Cork are travelling up to Park Talton to face Louth on Saturday in the opening game of their group stage in this year's championship. And secondly, we'll also hear from Cork ladies football manager Shane Ronayne, who joins us to chat about their upcoming Munster Senior A final against Kerry in Mallow this Saturday. So that's a lot to get through today, Kieran. But first, we'll just run through a couple of West Cork sports stories from the past week. And we'll start with the big one from Sunday as Dunmanway Town were crowned Beamish Cup champions with their victory over Bunratty United. The win makes it 3 in 4 seasons for Dunmanway, and by all accounts, Kieran, it was a great occasion for West Cork soccer.
Yeah, we had Kerry McCarthy up in Turner's Cross on Sunday covering this game for us. So like we've said in the podcast in recent weeks, the Beamish Cup final, it's the FA Cup final of the West Cork League. And Ger last week predicted a tight game between Dunmanway Town and Bunratty, and that's just what translated. So Dunmanway Town came on top 2-1. They got 2 goals in the first quarter of the game. Keith White had a 30-minute opener, and then Will Hennigan got a superb goal after 22 minutes to put Dunmanway 2-0 up. Conor Brosnan pulled a goal back for Bunratty in the second half, and they pushed. They really huffed and puffed in that second half, but Dunmanway Town held out to win the cup for the 3rd time in 4 years. So they really are Beamish Cup specialists. And part of that team is Stephen O'Donovan, who was winning his 6th Beamish Cup title with Dunmanway Town, which is an incredible record as well. And just to note too, I just see there on social media that Colin Cleary, Bunratty United stalwart, that was his last game for the club. So he's unfortunately he didn't bow on the high that he would have wanted. But Bunratty have had a very good season. They came up out of the championship last year, and they really put themselves in amongst the big boys, the Dunmanway Towns, the Clonakilty soccer clubs, the Drina Rangers. They were top 3 in the Premier Division. They got to a Beamish Cup final, so they can take a lot of positives from this season and building it for the seasons ahead. But for Dunmanway Town, the Beamish Cup is back there for another winter, and I think the celebrations were ongoing this week.
Yeah, lots of celebrations in Dunmanway. And we have a video of Kerry McCarthy managed to catch a brilliant goal on camera from Will Hennigan, like you said there. So we have a video of that available on the Southern Star website. I'll put it in the description of this for anyone who is listening and on YouTube or on the Star website as well. And moving on to some good news for Cork ahead of this weekend's match now. Liam O'Donovan, he won't be playing this weekend, but he did play his first game of football for Clonakilty in over 18 months on Sunday against Newcestown. And Kieran, it's brilliant to see him back. It's great news for Clon and for Cork, but mostly for Liam himself.
Exactly. Liam has been through the mill. Like, the poor fella has suffered more than most when it comes to injuries. It actually goes back to the summer of 2020. I think it was June 2020 in a challenge game against Valleys, when Liam did his ACL, and that knocked him out for a year. And that's just kind of kicked off an awful run of injuries for Liam. But the good news was we saw him back on the football field for Clonakilty last Sunday. He lined out in the half-back line as Clon took on Louth Town in a top-of-the-table Division 2 County Football League game that incidentally finished 9 points apiece. So both Clon and Louth Town are still in the hunt for promotion to Division 1. One of the big positives was to see Liam back in the Clonakilty jersey. His last football game for Clon before last Sunday was actually mid-November 2021 when Clonakilty beat Douglas in the County Premier Senior Football Championship semi-final up in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. And at the very, very end of that game, that's where Liam suffered the serious hamstring injury that literally has put his football career on hold for the last 18 months. Like those who've seen Liam play know what a fantastic footballer he is. He broke on the scene with Cork back in 2019, really impressive. But for Clon, he is such a leader in that team. He's such a good footballer, but it's just how he leads by example. So for Clon to have him back is great news. And hopefully, touch wood, it all goes well for him, that we might see him back in a Cork jersey at some stage. But I think for now, I think it'd be great just to see Liam get games under his belt with Clonakilty over the next couple of months, to take it easy, but to feel his way back into football, because the last thing any of us want to see is for Liam to suffer another setback. But it's great news, really good news. He did make a brief comeback for Clon's junior hurlers in October last year, but that was brief. Like, he didn't feature at all for Cork in the Division 2 league this year. Dylan hadn't featured for Clonakilty footballers up to now, but it's just great to see him back, and just want to wish him the best to look in the next couple of weeks and months. And like I said, hopefully he'll get that run of games that he needs and that he deserves to get his football career back on track.
Yeah, absolutely. And he played 40 minutes, I think it was, before he was taken off in the second half there. So it's great news, and hopefully he'll slowly build up the fitness again in the coming months. Now, moving on, we've a big interview coming up, Kieran, in this week's Southern Star. The European Rowing Championships start tomorrow in Slovenia, and we have chatted, well, you have chatted, not us, you have chatted to Olympic and world champion Fintan McCarthy. And can you give our podcast listeners maybe a sneak preview of your long read with him?
So it was Saturday, a week ago now, I met up with Fintan at the National Rowing Centre up in Inniscarra. It was the day before the Rowing Ireland team headed off to Italy on camp before the Europeans. That, like you said, Dylan, they start this Thursday and they run this Sunday. So it was a chance just to see where Fintan is at right now, because this is 2023 and this is the start of the Olympic qualification journey. So just for our listeners, to give them context, the World Championships in September, that's the first opportunity for boats to qualify for the Paris Games next year. So Ireland will want their the Irish lightweight men's double will want to qualify at the first chance in September. So this is the start. This is the start of Paris. Paris is on their mind, because for the next, not even 18 months, if we're thinking of summer next year, what's that, 13, 14 months, 15 months? That's
almost 12 months away now at this stage.
Yeah. So like, it's going to be centered on the Olympics. So I just wanted to chat to Fintan just about where he is at the start of this journey. And it's a really interesting chat, because he has grown on and off the water in the last couple of years, from the young fella who won his seat from Gary O'Donovan back in 2019 to where he is now an Olympic champion, a multiple world champion, a multiple European champion. And you can see that growth in him, how much he's developed over the years. He's 26 years old, so he's still quite young, but he's so experienced in terms of what he has achieved in rowing. So like I said, it's a really interesting read, I think, because it's just about the development of a sports person and how he's had to adapt over the years to what Paul O'Donovan does and to what the Irish rowing team does, because Fintan is someone who likes to plan everything out. He wants to know what he's doing next week, the week after that, and he can plan accordingly. But that's not the way it's been in that Irish lightweight double with Paul O'Donovan. But they're just magic there. There's a bit of stardust when these two skipperine roars come together. So it's a recommended read for me, for our listeners, to check out this Thursday's Southern Star, because it'll just give you that insight into one of Ireland's top sports people right now. And that's exactly what Fintan McCarthy is. It's always about Paul, and Paul is an incredible world-class athlete, but Fintan is an incredible world-class athlete too, who has made that Irish lightweight double the success that it is alongside Paul. So it's just an opportunity to get to know Fintan a little bit better.
Yeah, and I'll back you up on that recommendation. I got a chance to read the interview earlier this week as well, so looking forward to that. And everyone should go out and buy the Star tomorrow to read it themselves. We're gonna hear now, Kieran, from Haulie O'Sullivan ahead of Cork's opening game in the Sam Maguire this weekend against Louth. And he wrote in his Inside Track column in the Southern Star a couple of weeks ago that Cork will need to innovate to succeed this year. Do you think that they might have, over the last 6 weeks, had a chance to come up with some new tactics, come up with something slightly different? And how do you rate their chances?
Well, Cork will definitely have to come up with something a lot better than they showed against Clare in Ennis 6 weeks ago, Dylan, because that wasn't next or near good enough. That was the Munster quarter-final exit, albeit Cork lost by a point, 14 points to 13. It was still a poor Cork performance, and it left them licking their wounds for the last couple of weeks. And there was a period there where it was actually unknown whether Cork would be in the Sam Maguire Cup or in the Tailteann Cup. And for a county like Cork to be on the precipice like that, like it's not where you want to be. But as results panned out, Cork got into the Sam Maguire Cup in a group with Louth, Kerry and Mayo. So it's a tough group, but three teams out of the four go forward, which I don't know, like we're all sports fans here. We've seen different sports. Like when you have a group of four and three go forward, like it's taking the jeopardy out of it a little bit. But it could work in Cork's favour, because what it means is this game on Saturday, Cork against Louth, it's the biggest game for both counties, because on paper it looks the most winnable game for both counties. So if Cork, touch wood, get the win that we all want them to get on Saturday, it sets them up then for the next couple of games, because I'm not saying it guarantees the third place at worst, but you would think that Kerry and Mayo would both beat Louth. So it's a huge game for Cork on Saturday. Can they do it? I think they can. I think they've had those 6 weeks to, like I said, lick their wounds at the start, but then actually work so hard towards Saturday, because this is the game that will define their season. Win this, and there's a totally different complexion on the season. Lose it, and then you're staring into games against Kerry and against Mayo, and you're almost fearing the worst. Big addition is Brian Hurley is back. He missed the last couple of games in the league, and he missed the last to Clare as well. So Brian is the Cork captain. He's still the top forward in the county. He's the spearhead of that Cork attack. Like Haulie O'Sullivan will tell us quite soon, Brian Hurley's the man you want with the ball in your hand if there's a goal chance for Cork, and he is a difference maker. Huge game for Cork. Can they do it? They can. Will they do it? I think they will. And I think that will set us up then for a tasty Cork-Kerry game the following Saturday up in Páirc Uí Chaoimh at 3 p.m. The games are coming thick and fast, but Cork need to get the work done and get the job done against Louth on Saturday. But when I started talking to Haulie O'Sullivan first, I just wanted to get his take on the open round of the Sam Maguire Cup, which was last weekend, and it included Mayo's big 5-point win down in Killarney in the same group last weekend. So, Haulie, the Cork footballers are kicking off their Sam Maguire Cup campaign on Saturday, a trip up to Navan to take on Louth. But first of all, I just want to get your take on the opening weekend of action in the Sam Maguire Cup, especially Group 1. Mayo took Kerry's scalp. How do you think that'll affect Group 1 in the next couple of weeks?
Well, I suppose, Kerry didn't seem to have the required desire, and like Mayo, like they were the only team all along that could go man-to-man with Dublin and came very close to beat him. And Kerry are another team that play that kind of football as well, where they allow an opposition team to go man-to-man. But Mayo's fitness levels looked savage. They were very, very hungry. I think Kevin McStay said after they lost to Roscommon, that he gave them 2 weeks off. And look, that was a luxury to have, I suppose, because they had won Division 1 of the league. He knew they were in a very good place. They had to go out the week after and play Roscommon. So, it wasn't as if they had a huge amount to work on. They were kind of caught in the hot by Roscommon a week after they played the league final. So, that was kind of tough on them. But they seemed to open Kerry very easily. They overran him at midfield. Kerry didn't track their runners. They created numerous goal chances. Jason Foley looked in trouble with Aidan O'Shea at fullback all day long. And they got their matchups right. Paddy Clifford was kept scoreless. Shani Shea was kept scoreless. David Clifford was excellent again, but only for him it could have been a far wider gap. And look, I suppose there's a lot of learnings there for Cork. If Cork can produce a performance against Louth and try and take some of those things that worked for Mayo against Kerry, you could have a positive performance in Páirc Queeve as well the week after.
So that's Cork and Kerry. That's Páirc Uí Chaoimh the Saturday week. But Cork kick it off, like I said earlier, against Louth this weekend. And we touched it there too, Haulie. Mayo had a big break between being knocked out of Connacht in their opening game in Clarny last weekend. Cork have also had 6 weeks since we lost to Clare in that shock Munster quarter-final to this game against Louth. So how do you think the Cork management will have got the best out of those 6 weeks?
Well, look, I suppose we all came out of it as saying that they had an awful lot of work to do and an awful lot of improving to do. So I suppose the 6 week gap, gave them that chance. They probably played a number of challenge games, and they probably looked at their game plan you'd be expecting, and they'd have looked at ways of trying to improve that and trying to develop their game. And look, sure, we're all in the dark a bit again with regard to what way they're going to set up and what way it's going to go, but you'd be hoping that we'd see drastic improvement. And also on top of that, like the players, like in the past, if you had a defeat like that, you'd be out the weekend after in a qualifier and you'd be back on the horse. And I mean, the kind of mental block about getting beaten by Clare and then it's be gone. But they've had 6 long weeks now of kind of the Cork football public and people in general saying the Cork are written off. So like that hurt and that desire, that has to come to the fore as well, and I've no doubt it will. They have to be raring to get back on the horse and have a real cut off load and deliver a decent performance and come out the right side of it.
What was the most disappointing aspect of Cork's performance against Clare?
Well, I suppose Cork were, they were thereabouts as kind of poor as it all turned out to be. We could have easily got out of there with a 1 point or a 2 point win if things had gone our way. But look, it was just very easy to read, and I thought they did an awful lot of the same things they did all through the league, and it kind of played into Colm Collins' hands because he was well prepared for Cork's kick-out strategy and he had his matchups right, and they played with that hometown fire supported by their home crowd. And look, also on top of that, Brian Hurley was missing, and Brian Hurley is still an integral part of the Cork forward line, and he's supposed to be back fit and playing now for the next day, so hopefully that'll be a bonus.
How much of a boost is that Brian is back? He's not only is he Cork captain, but he was Cork's informed forward for a large chunk of the early part of the year as well. So, like you said, Haulie, he's an integral part of what Cork want to do.
Yeah, and he's a goal getter. Like if he's left 1-on-1, no matter who the defender is, you could name out some of the best fellas in the country that are able to mark 1-on-1. But if he gets 1-on-1 anywhere from the D in, he's going to take you on and he's going to look to stick it in the back of the net, And like he probably would have got 1 or 2 of those chances against Clare that would have put a bit of daylight and a bit of breathing space between the teams that might have allowed the rest of the players to express themselves a small bit more, and that anxiety might have gone, if you know what I mean. So look, he is very important, and he does take minding. The opposition know about him. He's been on the go now for the ones of 10 years with the Cork squad, and if Brian Hurley is inside, they'll be sitting someone in front to close up that gap. Now, look, obviously it depends again what way Louth are going to line up. Will they go the way they went last year in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, or they went man to man for long stages against Dublin? So it's up to what way Mickey Hart is going to line out his team and set them up as well.
This will be Cork and Louth's third meeting in less than 12 months. First was back in the qualifiers in Páirc Uí Chaoimh last year. Cork came out in the, suppose you call it a war of attrition in one way. Then in the league this year, up in RD, Louth came out on top. It was their first win against Cork in 66 years. So they got that monkey off their back. So what's going to happen in this third meeting in 12 months? And where will this game be decided on Saturday?
Yeah. Like, I suppose in fairness to Louth, they finished third in Division 2 and they made a Leinster final. So, it's a pretty successful season for them already. No one would have expected them to beat the Dubs. And, to have the battle that Mickey Hart and the confidence that Mickey Hart had to send his squad of players out man-to-man in Dublin. There's not, you might say Mayo, you might say Kerry that would be capable of doing that, or maybe Galway now. But, that was very courageous, and obviously he has fierce belief in his team. But if again it goes back to if Louth go 15 up, 15 back, it's going to be a similar kind of a story to last year. It'll be a game of patience, and when those gaps appear, you're going to have to be able to take those gaps. But it'll depend as well whether the team changes. You know what I mean? Are they sticking with the same primary 15, let's say, to 20 players, or will we see some new faces? It's hard to call because things have been very quiet since the Ennis game, because I'd say a lot of people were hurting and there's not a whole pile being said, and you'd be hoping that there was a lot of hard work being done behind closed doors to, let's say, get back on the horse and produce the kind of level of intensity and speed that's needed to beat Louth.
Besides Brian Hurley coming back in for this game, any changes you'd like to see? Any fellas on the periphery that you think deserve a chance?
Well, there is talk of Rory Maguire not being fit, that he's carrying some kind of a hamstring injury. Whether he'll be ready in time for Saturday or not is a different story. But that would mean probably, you could probably see Sean Meehan going to 6, or maybe you'll see Tom Clancy Clan coming in at 6. Because whoever comes in there is going to have a huge job on Sam Mulroy, who's their top player, and he got 10 points against Dublin, and if he can get 10 points against Dublin with the quality of defenders that they have, he's going to be one guy that has to be stopped. If he gets 10 points against Cork, more than likely we're going to come out the wrong side of it, because it will be it won't be as high scoring a game as the Leinster final was, you'd expect anyway.
This is a huge game for both Cork and Louth. With the greatest respect to both counties, they both have to play Mayo and Kerry in the weeks after. And with the way this championship is set up, Haulie, it's 3 teams out of the group of 4 will go through. So if you get one win under your belt, that's almost guaranteeing you progression. So both Cork and Louth, they'll be targeted this game, because they know if they can get a win on Saturday, it sets them up for the games to come.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This is probably the biggest game Cork have had in years in the championship, to be honest. If you come out the wrong side of it again, you could be set back for quite a while. It'll be a big blow to confidence in general and to this group of players. But as you said, there's 3 out, 1 win. Like if Cork beat Louth and deliver 2 good performances against both Mayo and Kerry, you'd be in a good place for a preliminary quarter-final. Then you don't know who you'd get there. But like the other side of it then is, and look, it's only my own opinion, I suppose, it'd probably be far more exciting if there was only 2 go out of each group. 3 is an awful lot, and you could have a fair stab at picking who the 4 are going to be that are going to be left out. Like if you had 2, you can imagine if Cork beat Louth and Kerry come into Cork, then Cork could have a chance of putting out of the championship basically, and to create great excitement and draw a far bigger crowd to Páirc Uí Chaoimh.
Maybe that's something that the GA can even learn from this year going into next year. Like you said there, the fact that the 3 teams out of 4 are going through, like there's little jeopardy then. Like it's coming down to, if you win one game, you're almost through, and then if you lose your next 2, it won't make much of a difference, because you have that preliminary quarter-final to fall back on. So could be something the GA can tweak after this year, maybe.
Yeah, and I suppose on top of that as well, like you had the kind of one-sided draw in Connacht. The draw wasn't seeded, and Sligo, in fairness to them, they deserved their spot. They are in one of the groups, but if the provincial draws were seeded, it would give, you probably would have the top 16 teams in the country then in the 4x4. But look, I suppose the provincial championship, it does deserve giving the weaker counties a chance at least to make a Leinster final or a Munster final. But then on the other side of that, we saw 3 out of the 4 provincial finals were a waste of time. So they'll be looking at that as well, saying that maybe they'll be looking at the Munster Council and all the other councils and asking them to seed their draws for next year to make sure that you have decent provincial finals, and that you really do end up with 4 very good teams in each one of the 4 groups, which then would make it highly competitive for 3 to get out.
Just on the provincials for a second, while you mentioned it, what is the future for them, Haulie? Because Munster, Kerry won by 14, Connacht and Galway won by 14, and then Leinster, just Dublin won by over 20 points. And I know, granted, okay, up in Ulster, it's always tight up there, but can you see a future in the provincials if they keep going the way they are? Because Leinster and Munster become a bit monotonous at the moment.
Well, I suppose, the dream is there of getting to a final and catching a stronger team, isn't it? It's going to be very hard, with the voting system in the provincial councils and all that kind of stuff, to go away from non-seeding of the draw. And obviously it can happen by accident, and that you have the stronger teams on opposite sides and you will have competitive provincial finals. But this year, with Clare beating Cork and with Sligo getting through on the other side, and obviously Dublin are really, starting to steam again, and they whitewashed everybody they met in Leinster basically. But look, it's a difficult one, and obviously, having the 2 provincial finalists going through to the 4x4 was trying to give more importance to the provincial championships. But I would say it probably won't work out like this every time. Do you know what I mean? That you were in a situation where you had like Cork and Kerry Munster final probably wouldn't have been a 14-point hammering or whatever it was with Clare. If you had a Mayo Galway Connacht final, that's not going to be a hammering either. Do you know what I mean? So it could be a one-off year that is an exception, if you know what I mean. So look, it remains to be seen. It's not for, we can only talk about it. I suppose we don't have any influence, but they could definitely end up with a stronger 16 as the final 4x4s if the draws were different.
I'm interested to see how the next couple of weeks pan out. But starting so on Saturday, what's your prediction? Can Cork go up to Navan and come away with that vital win to set them up for Kerry and Mayo in the weeks ahead?
Yeah, I think they can. I'd be expecting, and it'll be very, very, very disappointing if it doesn't happen. I expect them to play with ferocious intent and ferocious ferocity, because you know they're hurting with the last 6 weeks, and it's been a tough time for them, you can be guaranteed, and they're bound to be raring for rod. No, on the other side of it, you know, Louth are coming off a heavy defeat against Dublin. Will that affect them mentally, or will there be that element of baggage there as well, like Cork would have had, let's say, if the break was less from the Clare game? But it is a huge advantage also, obviously, that the game is in Navan rather than above in Louth, you know, because it's basically a neutral venue, and I know Louth play their home games there, but Cork are comfortable playing in Park Talton as well. They've played there recently, so I think that's an advantage to Cork as well.
Final question, Haulie, and you mentioned it there. Cork are hurting, disappointed after their performance and lost to Clare. How important is it that they bring that intent that you spoke of there, that they use that disappointment and turn it into a positive in their performance on Saturday?
Oh, sure. Look, you know, we've all played and we've all been there, and you know, that terrible feeling of putting in so much work and not producing on the day. You know, that's a killer. You know, all you're waiting to do is get back out and prove that you're better than you should. You know, and this squad of players definitely are far, far better than what they showed in Ennis. And I have no doubt that John Cleary and Kevin Walsh and the rest of them would have been driving that on, saying, look, you're written off. You know, this is your time if you want to get back on the horse. But we can't be under any illusions either. Or Louth showed a lot of stuff against Dublin that they're well capable of, you know, bringing a huge performance as well, and turning Cork over, even if Cork do produce, you know. So look, my feeling is Cork, and I hope my feeling is right, because it'll be nice to go into the Kerry game with a game under your belt and a win under your belt, and they having, you know, they go in the need of points, and they look more vulnerable than they were last year. So look, it remains to be seen, but I think Cork will win.
Great stuff, Haulie. Thanks.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Welcome back to the Star Sport podcast. And Cork's reward for a good win over Waterford in Ahamilla a couple of weeks ago, Kieran, was a place in the Munster LGFA Senior A final this weekend against Kerry. We're going to hear now from manager Shane Ronayne about what a win would mean for his team and the importance of the competition as well. And you caught up with him to chat about that.
Yeah, it's good chance to catch up with Shane Ronayne. So it's the Munster Ladies Senior Football Final this Sunday, 3:30 in Mallow. Big game for Cork. They go in as reigning Munster champions, but they go in against an informed Kerry team that won the league Division 1 title earlier in the year and also contested last year's All-Ireland football final. So this is a Kerry team very much on the rise. So Cork know that they need to bring their A game if they want to beat Kerry. When they met a couple of weeks ago in the round-robin part of this of the Munster Championship, Kerry actually led by 10 points with minutes to go, but Cork rallied very, very late. They scored an unanswered 2-4 to snatch a draw. I think Orla Cahalan and Emer Kiley got the goals. But Cork know they can't let Kerry get a 10-point lead. It's one thing giving them a 10-point lead in a round-robin game where Kerry knew no matter what was going to happen, they were probably going to go through to the Munster final. But with silverware at stake, there's no way in the world that Cork can let that happen on Sunday. But Cork are going in a good place. Did a good win there against Waterford, like you said, Dylan, in the last round. They only conceded 4 points. Only conceded 1 point from play. Defensively, they were quite solid. They'll need that and a lot more against a far better Kerry team. But it's just a good challenge for Shane Ronayne's side right now to see where they are at compared to one of the top teams in the country. So all roads lead to Mallow on Sunday. And it's just interesting. There's such a deluge of games right now, GA games every weekend. A Munster final like this almost gets lost in the noise, lost in the chaos, which is an awful shame. I suppose it's one of the side effects of the split season with so many inter-county games on together. But it would be great to see a big crowd in Mallow on Sunday at 3:30. It's clashing with the Cork Limerick hurling game, which is unfortunate. That's on at 4:00 up in the Gaelic grounds, but hopefully a crowd will turn out in Mallow for the Cork ladies on Sunday, because we saw what a big crowd did for Cork at Ahmilla a couple of weeks ago. It's the week of a Munster final, so Shane, but talk to us first about the importance of the Munster Championship to Cork. Of course, we have the All-Ireland campaign to come, and that's a big one. But how important is it for Cork to be kings of their own patch?
Yeah, look, I think it's very important. We never took Munster titles for granted, even all those times when the girls were winning all those All-Irelands, Kieran, years ago. The Munster title always meant something, and it was always, I suppose, well received. And when we lost it, I remember losing it in 2015 when Eamon was there, and we were very disappointed to lose it. The girls were very disappointed. So it's always mattered. And I suppose the fact this year that it was a round robin as well, gave us three very good games, and we got a lot out of it. And look, we're certainly looking forward to Sunday, because it's a chance, I suppose, to play against. Look, I think they're the best team in the country at the moment. And we got a draw against them the last day. Probably fortunate to get that. So I think and I suppose that draw against them, improved us. I think we were better against Waterford than the next day. So I think we're getting better by the game. But I do know that we'll have to make a huge improvement from where we did the first day in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, because you can't give a team like Kerry a 10-point lead. If they get 10 points up on us on Sunday, they won't be leaving that go. And I think I would say they learned a lot from that game as well. So look, any title, that's a cliche about any title being important, but it has always been valued in Cork. And I know that from being there before, and I know that from speaking to the experienced players. And look, we have a lot of younger players in our squad as well, Kieran, who this will be their first Munster senior final. So it's going to be very, very important to them, and I suppose to have that atmosphere and probably hopefully a good crowd in Mallow. And I think it's very, very important. And we're certainly going out to win it, and we know we have to be a lot better than what we were.
You touched on Kerry there, Shane. Obviously, that's Cork's opponents this weekend, and you just call them the best team in the country right now. Have you been surprised by their emergence over the last couple of seasons? Because they really have shut out of the pack. Got to the All-Ireland final last year. Okay, came up short, but they were impressive winning Division 1 this year. So they really are a formidable team right now. Yeah,
look, they are. And I suppose I haven't really been surprised. The talent has always been in Kerry, I suppose, and in previous years. And always, even when I was talking to a man today from Kerry, and even when we played them in 2015 and we lost them, they beat us by 12 points in the Munster final in 15. We came back and beat them in the All-Ireland semi-final, but there was nothing between them, even when Cork were, at the peak of their powers. And I suppose, in fairness to the two lads, Declan and Dara, there's a consistency there as well. They've been there, this is their fourth year with them, and they've always had serious players. I work with some of those players, and you see Cott Lynch, Louise McCarthy, they're class players, and they've had good young players coming up as well. Maybe Kerry haven't been unbelievably successful at underage, but I suppose what they've done is brought through a few players each year, and they've built a very experienced squad. They've got a lot of power and pace all over the team. And look, they absolutely dismantled Dublin, Meath this year, just hammered Galway in the league final. And I suppose to run up that lead against us was very, very impressive as well. Look, they probably took their foot off the gas, and and as I said, but they've been hugely impressive, and they've built on, I suppose, last year. It probably would have been seen outside of Kerry and outside of people who know what's going on in the game. It would have been probably a surprise if they got to the All-Ireland final last year. They weren't even favourites to win the Division 2 final when they played Armagh last year on it. But they've just kicked on. They've got great self-belief, I think, from winning Division 2 last year, getting to the All-Ireland final. And look, they went all out and did very well in the league this year. And, they're very organised. They're very fit. They've got great scoring forwards. They've got players at the back who can, like Katie Cronin, who can bomb up that field and create scores. And they just have been very, very impressive. And, hats off to them. It'd be much easier if they weren't going well for Sunday, but they have been. And I'm not blowing them up to say that they are the best team in the country. They're favourites for the All-Ireland, and rightly so.
You mentioned there the recent meeting between Cork and Kerry in the round robin. So Kerry were 10 points up late on in that game, but Cork battled back impressively well to get a 2-14 apiece draw. What were the big lessons that Cork took from that game?
Yeah, I suppose, look, lots of things didn't function right for us that day. Our own kickouts, Kerry put a huge high press on them, something I suppose we've worked on very hard for the last few weeks. I suppose we prided ourselves, even in the league game, we did very well in the Kerry kickout, but Kerry obviously learned from that, and we didn't do so well. And just, I think the pace they played the game at, I suppose our girls, just we had thought we were ready for it. We weren't right, and I suppose they were really up for it, I think. And I think we've learned a lot from it. And as I said, I think we were way better against Waterford. We took a lot of learnings from it. And look, it's been tough going as well, 3 weeks in a row to play. Like the lads in the hurling championship stopped that. A few years ago they had no 3 weeks in a row. So it is tough going. But I think, look, we learned a lot out of it. But I think Kerry would have as well, that they got themselves in a very good position against us. So look, we've got to be we know we can't start the way we did against Kerry or give them that opportunity, because they will punish you. And I'd be fairly sure if they got ahead this time, that door would be shut. We wouldn't be getting back into it. So we know we have to be way better that way.
Defensively, Cork were really strong against Waterford. They kept them to just 4 points in total, just 1 point from play. And you were talking to Ger McCarthy after the game, and you mentioned about the tackle count. You were pretty happy with Cork's tackle count. That defensive solidity against this Kerry attack, that's going to be so key again this weekend.
Yeah, look, I think we were wide open a lot of the time against them in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and they've got such class forwards, they're going to punish you. And I think, I suppose that was something we hadn't a whole pile of time to work on before the Waterford game, but I suppose we maybe forsake a few other things and made sure we were more defensively solid against Waterford, because Waterford, look, they call us problems in the league as well. So look, we'd be very happy with that. But I would say, no disrespect to Waterford, the calibre of forwards that Kerry have, we still coughed up a lot of opportunities to Waterford. If we cough up those opportunities to Kerry, I think they'll be taken. So, there's still things to work on. But look, we've had the 2 weeks. We were able to do a little bit more work on it. So I'm hoping that if we know that if we can see 2-14 on Sunday or anywhere around that, or we can see the 1-14 against Tipperary, we know that we probably won't win the Munster title. So that's something we're really working on. And I suppose, look, as I said to Ger that day about the tackle count, I think that's coming from all over the field. And look, you see it in every game now. Look, even the Mayo Kerry men's game at the weekend, like the tackles, blocks and steals. Like Mayo were 24 up on Kerry on that, and Mayo won the match. And that's what it boils down to. Even though you're looking at the class players Kerry have in the men's team, so that's in every game now. The hooks, tackles, and blocks in hurling, and the hooks, tackles, steals in football. Like it's the nitty gritty stuff. And I think we have to be way better at that. We've got talented players in Cork. We know that. So look, that's something we're pushing the girls with all the time.
Panel-wise, how are things looking at the moment? I see Laura Fitzgerald came off the bench against Waterford and got 1-2 in her comeback. So it's great to have those options available to you now, Shane.
Yeah, look, it is. And I suppose the week before, Orla Callahan came off the bench and scored 1-1, and I think that's very, very important. And we're building a squad, and we've got talented players. Look, Orla's only starting out in her career. Fitzy, that was actually her championship debut, even though she's one of the, probably a more experienced player. She was in squads before, but injury cost her then last year. So look, it's great to have those players, and other players are coming off the bench as well. Like we've used 5 different subs in all the games. We used 34 players over the league. So look, we've loads of players who are chomping at the bit to get in there, and I think they're realising, I suppose, as well. And I suppose it's a change of mentality for a lot of them. Because a lot of them are used to probably playing all the time, especially the younger girls are coming in from the minor squad. The last few years where they've been on the team. It's a different mentality when you're in the senior squad to realise that okay, it might be 20 minutes today. I think that's the important thing, to change your mentality that I'm going to perform for my 20 minutes or my 40 minutes or my 50 minutes or whatever it may be, and take their opportunity. And I think, in fairness, the girls have been absolutely excellent. The impact off the bench against Kerry was brilliant. Even against Tip, we needed a bit. It was a really warm day. First time we played in that kind of heat all year. And again, the bench, livened up the whole place. And against Waterford, again, look, Fitzy came on and got 1-2, but other girls came on there, the back, Laura O'Mahony, Derek Canary, Derek Haulie. Maura Callan as captain came on, huge experience. I think that's the beauty of the squad we have at the moment. We've a very strong bench, and look, Sunday will be no different. It's going to be 20 players, and I think the more players realise that it is a 20-player game, and that number 35 in our panel is working as hard as number 2 in our panel, because that's the way it has to be. And I think In fairness to the girls, that the impact off the bench has been asked for when they're delivering.
Finally, Shane, I just want to ask you, how much did the whole squad and management enjoy that game in Clonakilty recently? It was the first ever Munster Ladies Senior Football Championship in West Cork. Clonakilty pulled out all the stops, I think over 1,200 there, and all reports back was just a really positive experience for the players, for fans. Everyone enjoyed it. Was it just great for the players to be able to get that connection with the fans, to mingle with them after and so on? And hopefully some of those fans will go to Mallow this weekend and just keep supporting the team as well.
Yeah, look, it was absolutely brilliant. Everybody involved in it, all the West Cork ladies crowd. And we're lucky, I suppose, we have Marion Forbes involved with us from Donny's, who did a lot of work behind the scenes, getting mini games at half time. And look, the Clonakilty Ladies Club, led by Yvonne Ryan and everybody in Clonakilty GA, they were absolutely brilliant on the day as well. Their organisation beforehand was brilliant. So everything ran very smoothly on the day. And to see that crowd, I suppose there was a huge buzz around the place, and it was brilliant to be running out onto the field and to hear that roar, because it's often it doesn't happen. You don't get that and then the buzz. I think everybody got a huge buzz that day, and afterwards you saw the younger players mimicking the senior players doing their warm downs, and and there was all these players flocking around our girls afterwards for autographs. I think it was a real kind of carnival atmosphere, and look, we got a great result in as well. And then look, it's something we were very happy to do. It's something I suppose we had planned on doing before, but it didn't work out for one reason or another. And it's certainly something, Kieran, we're going to look at again, because West Cork has the football reputation, and you could see that there was lots of people I believed at that match who hadn't gone to ladies football match before, but would be big football fans, and I think they surely enjoyed it, and I think that's only bodes well for everybody. And look, for the kids down in West Cork, it was fantastic for them to be able to see their heroes. And and I think that's the big thing about it, that these girls are their heroes, and it's not looking up to their male counterparts all the time, like most of them have to do, and to have them accessible then as well. Look at our girls, in fairness, they're great. They've got great personalities, and they were more than happy to be signing autographs and doing things for the girls and things like that. So look, we were delighted with the whole experience, and certainly something we look at doing again, because it worked out very well. And look, and I have to thank everybody again, Kieran, down in West Cork, especially in Clonakilty. They were brilliant and really made everyone feel so welcome. And look, I'm sure Waterford didn't enjoy the game, but I'm sure they enjoyed the atmosphere and knowing the carnival atmosphere that was down there. And fair play to everybody down there.
Fingers crossed it'll be another successful outing for the Cork ladies this weekend. Best of luck on Sunday, Shane.
Thanks very much, Kieran.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Now, welcome back again to the Star Sport podcast. There is a whole lot of West Cork sport happening. It's the time of year to be picking up the Southern Star. And tomorrow, Kieran, we have another stellar edition of the Star Sport newspaper. And can you give us a sneak preview of what's in this week's Star?
Just going to flag again, Dylan, the big interview with Fintan McCarthy. Like I said earlier, that's well worth to read, to get into the mind, Olympic and World Rowing Championship, and see what he's thinking right now. But there's loads in there besides it. Obviously, the inter-county action, it's hot and heavy at the moment. So we have an interview with Pat Ryan, the Cork hurling manager, an interview with John Cleary, the Cork football manager, and Shane Ronayne, who we just heard from there, the Cork ladies football manager, ahead of a huge weekend for those various Cork teams. You also have a tribute to Castlehaven GA great James O'Neill, who passed away recently, and Tom Lyons has penned a lovely words about James O'Neill and what he meant to local GA, Carby GA and Cork GA. So that's well worth to read. We go big in the county league again. Town is our feature game this weekend, and we also have a roundup from the most recent weekend of action that sees Donny's go well in Division 3, Haven slipping up in Division 1, Town go well in Division 2, and so on. So check it out on Thursday to see where your club is at. Also have an interview with Maeve Cahalan from the famous Cahalan dynasty. So she's talking about why she chose Cork Camogie over football this year. Maeve was a dual player the last couple of seasons. She juggled both at senior level, but this season she's decided to focus on Cork Camogie only, and she's parked Cork football for a moment. So she explains her reasons for that. It's an interesting interview because her younger sister Orla is still a dual player, or a new dual player. She's playing both senior camogie and football for Cork, and is just about out of minor. So that's an interesting read. Obviously, we go big on the Beamish Cup final. We have a double page spread on that. So any fans of Dunmanway Town, make sure you get your star on Thursday. We also have the match report reaction from the West Cork League Premier Division Cup final for Drina Rangers, followed up their league win with a big cup win. Jack Crowley added to his award collection last week when he won a Young Men's Player of the Year award at the Irish Rugby Awards, and we have a report and pictures from that. We have athletics, road bowling, soccer, motorsport, kickboxing. Bench kickboxer Tony Stevenson has been officially selected for the Irish team going to the European Games next month in Krakow. So it's a really packed Southern Star Sport on Thursday. And don't be the one to miss out. Make sure you pick it up.
Yeah, and as always, if you're further afield, you can't make it to the shops, you can't buy a physical copy of the Southern Star, you can subscribe online to the Southern Star e-paper, and you can get the paper on your laptop, tablet or phone. Just head to subscribe.southernstar.ie, enter your details, and you'll get an exact replica of the newspaper for less than €2 per week. In there this week as well, we have a free 16-page motoring supplement, so lots there for car fans and fanatics. And as always, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast, and thanks again to our sponsors at Access Credit Union. If you've enjoyed this, please remember to rate, review and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll be back again next week.